So just come over to the layers palette, and with the Panther layer activated, just come over here to the blending mode menu, and you can experiment with many of the blending modes. What I found that works pretty well is the multiply. Look at that. And also the soft light, which also works very well. And you can also maybe get away with hard light, but it's a little bit harsh. But overlay, soft light, and hard light. I like multiply. It always seems to be a little bit dark when I select multiply, but what I can do is hold down the Alt key and come down to the bottom of the layers palette, click on the new Create Adjustment Layer button right here, and I can select contrast. And by the way, on the Mac, that's the Option key, Alt on the PC. But I'll put a check in this box right here, use previous layer to create clipping mask, and I'll click OK. And then what I can do is brighten up that panther skin over the rhino. Okay, this is before and this is after. But what we're going to want to do next is erase away some of the areas that we don't want inside this image here. You can see that we have some of the panther skin going over in the grass, and it's areas that we don't really want it to be. So let's click on the panther layer and then make a layer mask on this layer. So come down right here and click on the Add a Layer Mask button, and you should see a little white box there next to the thumbnail on that layer. And then over here on the toolbar, select the brush tool, and with a black foreground, if it is black, if not, you can just press the D and X keys on the keyboard and flip back and forth between white and black. But I'm going to keep that black, and then what I'll do is paint on the image. But before I do that, I think I will increase the opacity of this brush to 100%. So just make sure that's set to 100% and zoom in if you need to. And I'm going to come in here and just erase away some of these areas that I don't want, just like this. I'm going to come through here and paint on this layer. And because we did select multiply, it does blend the two layers together very well. And so just this alone saves you a lot of time. But you can see that I can erase away. There's still the backgrounds of these two images are still blending together, so we can erase that background out of there too if we want to. That way we just have the panther skin only. But more importantly though, you just want to look or just cruise around the image here and look for any of the panther skin that is going outside of the rhino. Because that's going to be the most noticeable area there. But I'll just come around here like this and down here around the foot. Look at that. It's probably not on his toes and all that, so what I'll do is just erase away that part. And if you get really close, you'll be surprised. You'll see a lot of other interesting things here going on. Look at this. Finding the right images is probably the hardest part. Because once you have that, the rest is pretty easy to do. But also the biggest thing about this is the liquify command and blending these two layers together so we can blend the skin. The rest is just coming in here and touching things up. But I'm going to show you a few other things you might want to know to cover this rhino skin completely. Look at that. See how if we get real close, we start to see stuff that we didn't see before. And we have the panther's ear right here. You can barely see it, but I won't worry about that right now. But let's take a look at this. And it's kind of like his head's a little bit lost. It's kind of hard to tell that his head's there. And the horn on his head, it's blended in with the skin. Well, what we can do is make sure, and do the same thing we've been doing, is to make sure that layer mask is selected, and then just paint on that mask to get rid of the skin that's on the horn there, so it looks a little bit more realistic here. I could lower the opacity of that just a touch so we can see underneath that layer a little better. There we go. Try that one more time. Look at that. And now you have that horn sticking out there. And I can even do his eye right there. They have very small eyes, those rhinos. And let's look at his leg right here. We can see we don't have any pattern on his leg. Well, what we can do, let's select the healing brush tool. Healing brush tool might work because we have to make sure that the layer thumbnail, the panthers here, are selected on this layer before we do this. But I can hold down the Alt key and then I'll get the little eyedropper tool and I can click where there is a pattern, such as over here, and then bring it over and then add the pattern to his leg, just like this. Now, if this is not strong enough, what you can do is use the clone stamp as well. Over here, clone stamp. Because it looks like to me, yeah, this is going to work a little better for us. There we go. I'm going to make sure this matches up with the other side. There we go. And it looks like the spots are a little bit dark on his legs over here if we're trying to match these up. So I can select this layer mask, and with the eraser tool selected, I can lower the opacity down to 20%. And let me go in here. Better yet, what I think I'll do is lower the opacity of the brush. Yeah, this is going to work better. So if I use the brush instead of the eraser with an opacity of 20%, I can just gradually fade those spots. Look at that. And that will help it match these front two legs here. And there we go. And we can patch up this spot right here. We can add some spots to his head. I can make that invisible and you can see what's going on there. Probably use the patch tool. Well, I can make sure that the panthers are selected here on that layer by clicking on the thumb, and then draw selection around this area here that we don't want, and then I can click in the middle of the selection and then move the selection over an area that I like, or an area that has some patterns that I like, such as right here, and then I'll release the mouse and it will replace that. Look at that. And then I can just come in here with a healing brush and touch up some areas here. There we go. Just going to lighten the pattern in some areas so it's not so harsh there. And so there you have it. Now I was going to use a giraffe or a zebra, but I haven't used a panther yet, so I decided to use a panther. And we can also get interesting results if we invert the layers, you know, something like this. Of course, we can see all the areas that we have not erased away yet on the panther layer, but that's okay. That's something easy we can do. But and invert that back to the way it was. There we go. And I can hold down Shift, and I can create an adjustment layer, hue and saturation adjustment layer, and we can change the color of this, and we can do all kinds of things. But that's a basic way on how we can swap the skin from one animal and place it over to the other. So again, this is just something fun that you can share with your family and friends to impress them and make them wonder, how did you do that? But hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you guys on the next video.